What's good, YouTube? It's me, everybody. Good back in another video. Today, I want to talk to you guys about the 5 decks that are getting the highest impact from Agov. Agov has a lot of support for legacy decks and new decks alike, and these 5 decks are actually receiving the most high ceiling in terms of support that will push them over the edge at the very minimum. And starting off with the first deck, let's just dive right in, is Rescue Ace. This is obviously a no-brainer. If you guys have been following the OCG, you probably recognize that this deck has gotten a lot better after Age of Overlord, and that's thanks to our new engine that's released in the form of the Sinful Spoils engine. So for those of you guys that don't understand what this engine is, effectively we're only looking at 3 cards specifically, but it allows us to tutor the Hydrant directly from the deck without using our normal summon. And how it works is, starting off, I'll explain this card, the quick play spell card that we play 3 of. It's a Sinful Spoils Hunter Fiend. This is add 1 DIABELLESTAR monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand, and then the additional effect is during the main phase you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one of your Sinful Spoils spells or traps that's in the graveyard, except this card, place it on the bottom of the deck, then draw 1 card. So it's almost like a pseudo Sky Striker Engage, because it's going to allow us to search, and then later on we're going to be able to recycle a card to draw a card. Now the card that we search is actually DIABELLESTAR the Dark Witch. This card allows you to special summon herself from your hand by sending a card from your hand or field to the graveyard. So this combo will require at least 1 other card investment, but we're going to get that investment back using the effect of the quick play spell card to draw a card later on. So just one thing to note. Now, when you special summon DIABELLESTAR with their effect, you can actually search for 1 Sinful Spoils spell trap and set it directly from your deck. And the Sinful Spoils spell that we're going to set is actually the Sinful Spoils Snake Eye, which allows you to send 1 other face-up card you control to the graveyard, then special summon 1 level 1 fire monster from your hand or deck. So you guys can see exactly where this is going, right? We're going to summon out Rescue Ace Hydrant. So now you're able to access Hydrant without burning your normal summon, which is just crazy. Off of 1 card, Sinful Spoils Hunter Fiend, you're going to activate this, add a copy of DIABELLESTAR, use DIABELLESTAR's effect to send another card you control or in your hand to the graveyard, special summon her out, and then add the copy of the E-Tally. Use the copy of the E-Tally to send another card that we control to the graveyard. Ideally, probably just DIABELLESTAR herself, because that's like the 1 card that doesn't really do much for the deck immediately, and it's just free at that point. We summon out the Rescue Ace Hydrant, use the effect to search. Then later on, we can use the effect of the Quick Play spell card to recycle back that E-Tally spell card to draw a card. So it means that we can redo it later on, because the Quick Play spell card actually adds from the graveyard to the hand as well. So it's just crazy. We can max out on the 3 Quick Play spell cards, play 1 of the E-Tally, and then 1 or 2 of the DIABELLESTAR, and that's probably good enough. So Rescue Ace is going to get very, very strong after the next set. And if you guys, again, look at the OCG, this is one of the tier 1 decks because of the DIABELLESTAR engine. So yeah, this is the first deck that I really want to cover. Next, let's talk about another deck, is actually MANNADIUM. So this has a lot of hype because we're getting a lot of support from MANNADIUM in the form of synchros as well as effect monsters. And a lot of people have kind of grazed past this, but after Agov, Realmheart on himself is actually full combo, which allows you to actually access, if I'm not mistaken, a line to get into the Crimson Dragon Archfiend Calamities all by himself. It's crazy because that's made possible by this 1 key component, the synchro monster called MANNADIUM Trilosuka, or whatever the heck the name will be translated. Hopefully it's not this, because I have no idea how to pronounce it. But this is a level 6 tuner synchro monster that can be made generically using a tuner and a non-tuner. And when this card is synchro summoned, you can actually target a level 2 tuner in your graveyard, special summon it, but the effects are negated. And then you can also target any number of tuners you control. Their levels become 2. Also, you're locked into synchro monsters for this turn. But why is this card good? Well, we can just go normal summon Realmheart, add a copy of Meek or whatever else you want to special summon out in the MANNADIUM Balls engine. And then from there, we can instantly go into the MANNADIUM here and then use the effect to revive that Meek that you brought off of Realmheart from your deck, and then use that to go directly into the Visa Starfrost synchro, which allows us to just do so much in the deck, right? Like, guys, the Visa synchro, Visa's Amritara, which is treated as Visa Starfrost on the field. So after we use the effect to add a copy of a card that mentions Visa Starfrost, which is just another extender like the field spells, we can then use Visa's Amritara to link off directly into the Scareclaw Lightheart, because he's actually treated as the copy of Visa Starfrost on the field. And then from there, we're just full comboing into the Scareclaw line, into the rest of the MANNADIUM line. So it's just very, very powerful. There are also other Visa Starfrost support coming out, like like Visa Samsara, which is treated as Visa Starfrost while on the field in the graveyard. So it's just additional copies of Visa Starfrost that we can also normal summon because he's a level 4. So that allows us to also access Lightheart very easily. This card is also a tuner. I don't know if you guys saw like some other combos. I think Jesse Cotton did like a combo with Visa Samsara alone that gives you like full tier combo as well as the full Mannadium combo, or half of each rather. And it's just really, really cool that they're getting a lot more cards, a lot more degenerate cards. But the fact is, Mannadium right now is like a 2-card engine deck. Like a lot of times you do require multiple pieces in order to play, and although the end boards are very hefty, it's just hard getting to that line using 2 or more card investment, especially when one hand trap could potentially stop you there on the spot. So having that access to 1-card engine is just so critical in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! You guys already know that most of the best decks do have 1-card engines, save for something weird like Unchained, which still has a variety of different 2-card combos as well as a 1-card engine and tour guide. But basically, my point is having a 1-card combo in a crazy combo deck that we already know works with the 2-card combos as we have now, there is going to be a huge revolution with this deck if people don't start playing cards like Drone Lockbird. Don't hate me for saying that, but I just think that this deck will definitely get a lot better. Moving on is a brother of Mannadium, or sister I should say, but TEARLAMENTS. This deck will continue to get better, even though that the ban list already did a large number for the TEARLAMENTS players, making them happy by banning a Rise Heart. They're actually getting another line of support that they could potentially splash in called the HORUS monsters. So these monsters are absolutely critical. You get 4 monsters in the upcoming set, and they all revolve around this one card, Pharaonic Sarcophagus. How does this work? Well, when we have Pharaonic Sarcophagus on the table, we can actually bring back any of these HORUS monsters for free from the graveyard once per turn. So there's effectively dragon rulers, and you can bring them back anytime you control the Pharaonic Sarcophagus, which also has this effect that allows you to discard a card to foolish a HORUS monster from your deck or your graveyard, and you can actually use that effect 4 times per turn? Huh? So you can actually discard until you fill your graveyard with these names and just bring them back to access your rank 8 plays very easily. Now, there is actually one card that allows you to tutor into the Pharaonic Sarcophagus very easily, and that's the Glory of Horus, which allows you to send 2 cards from your hand to the graveyard, including this card, add 1 Pharaonic Sarcophagus from your deck to your hand, and then discard and then draw another card. So you're drawing like 2 cards essentially. You are able to get access into the Pharaonic Sarcophagus very easily, and in a deck like TEARLAMENTS, I think it could work very well because you're able to fill up your grave with bricks that you don't want in your hand, and you're also able to mill these guys. So as long as you're able to access Pharaonic Sarcophagus and you mill copies of these HORUS monsters, you will be able to bring them back very easily and then make XYZ plays like the Zombie Vampire, which says detach a card from this material and then you get to mill 4 cards from both players' decks. So effectively, you're getting a free way to mill multiple cards. And there are other rank 8s that are also very powerful. I'm not sure if necessarily TEARLAMENTS would have space, but there are cards like Hope Harbinger, as well as the Fulton, I believe the Fulton rank 8 as well, Fulton Lord. So you can see that there are a lot of options for this deck to definitely shine with the new support that's coming out. And we know that a deck like TEARLAMENTS is just always going to be good as long as the names are still at 1. And as long as we still have the shufflers and the millers. Like, it just does so well when the worst matchup for it has been banned and eradicated. And now that we have so many more ways to experiment with the graveyard with these cards like the HORUS cards, I think the deck will stay for a long time and it will get a boost. Not necessarily saying these cards will be staple, but another thing is a lot of the OCG players have been actually splashing in the DIABELLESTAR in the TEARLAMENTS deck as well, for the sole reason of obviously making Chaos Ruler with their level 7s. They can go into Chaos Ruler very easily with TEARLAMENTS Kashtira or even just Fenrir, right? But the fact that we don't have it makes it a little bit more up for debate if the DIABELLESTAR will actually work well, because what you would actually go into with that is the Jet Synchron, which is a level 1 fire monster that is a tuner. So I don't know if there are any good level 8s synchros that we actually want to have in TEARLAMENTS in the TCG. I mean, I know there's a Black Feather Rage Dragon, which allows both players to mill 2 cards as well, or mill 5 cards rather. So that's just something else that could definitely be splashed in if we're going like a Blackwing route with like Assault Synchron. But it's just really neat to see that there's so many different options for us to make use of the new engines that are coming out in Agov for TEARLAMENTS, because it's such a flexible deck, right? There's so many things that we can do with the different cards that we have. So that's why I think Tears will definitely get a huge boost. And I'm sure with these new toys that are coming out, a lot of people will be very happy and they will be playing the deck more than ever. And then the next deck we'll talk about is actually a crazy one, but TGs. These guys are getting new support nearly however many years later. I mean, I think it actually got support recently in the past couple of years, but it wasn't really good. Shout out to Marquise Henderson, of course, for winning the YCS Atlanta in 2012. For those of you OGs that remember, this guy came out of nowhere with TGs and actually won the event when plants and other decks were dominating. But that's besides the point. They're finally come to their senses. Konami has printed new TG support, and we are actually getting some very powerful creatures that I think there's actually a 1 or 1.5 combo that allows you, 1.5 card combo that allows you to end on a full board full of negates and draw a bajillion cards off TG Hyper Librarian. And the funniest part about all of this is one of the new TGs, TG Rocket Salamander, which is one of the main starters in the deck now, is actually searchable off of the Sinful Spoils engine. So you would again play the Sinful Spoils engine to have this E-teleport to summon out this level 1 fire TG Rocket Salamander, who says you can tribute 1 TG monster, special summon a TG monster with a different original name from your deck, which is, so it's basically like a Lone Fire Blossom for TGs. And then the other fact is if you control a machine TG monster, you can target a level 4 or lower TG monster in your graveyard, special summon it in defense mode. So this card does so much for the deck. And I'm pretty sure this is the main enabler for a lot of the new combos. We did get a lot of new synchros as well that are really, really awesome, like TG Mighty Striker, an upgraded version of TG Striker. The caveat is this deck is a little bit weak, I would imagine, to hand traps because it does lock you a lot of times into TGs, if I'm not mistaken. Cards like D-Barrier might also be a hindrance for that. And the fact is the older TG cards are just so outdated. They're not really playable in the deck. It's more the new TG cards that are good, but there might not be enough of them to necessarily make use of in a way that makes a cohesive deck in a 12-round environment event. But that's up to you guys to decide. I just think this deck is really, really awesome, and it will actually see some play, at least at a tier 2 level, in my opinion. They're just really, really cool, and the new support in Agov is pushing them to a new level, basically from like tier 99 to tier 3 or tier 2, so that's a big jump in my opinion. We definitely gotta give an honorable mention to these guys, a shout out, and I think the fact that TG Hyper Librarian is still legal is just crazy. You can draw like your whole entire deck. I think this is the better version of Synchrons, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, at least from the 5-minute combos that I've seen on YouTube. Definitely check them out if you guys haven't already. I think this deck will be somewhat playable, and if people actually don't respect this deck, it could potentially win an event. Who knows? We'll find out once Agov is released. And then the last deck I want to talk to you guys about is actually the Vanquish Soul deck. Believe it or not, Vanquish Soul is actually getting some support in the upcoming set in the form of Vanquish Soul Jiaolong, which is a fire monster. It's great because we were lacking fires in that deck. We previously only had Raisin and then Rise Heart probably off the Fenrir and then the Ash Blossoms. A lot of times you needed the fires for triggering Raisin's pop effect or triggering the other effects, right? But Jiaolong is really nice. In addition to being a fire, it actually has the effect where it's an extender. So if you reveal a card in the hand to activate a Vanquish Soul card's effect, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. So if we go Raisin, search for like a heavy burger, use the effect of reveal, bounce back Raisin, we can instantly get a free Jiaolong onto the table, meaning that we can make rock with Jiaolong instead of having to burn the heavy burger and then lose that monster's effect to potentially draw, or burning the effect of the rock to bring out a Raisin on their turn so we can bring back the heavy burger, right? It kind of puts a step ahead by having a free extender, but that's not all. It has this other effect that's a quick effect. You can activate one of these effects by revealing the following attributes, a lot like the other assists of the Vanquish Souls. Fire, you can change the battle position of one monster on the field. Hey, could be kind of handy in stopping something like a Zeus, but the other effect is even better. Fire and fire. This guy just loves fire, but 2 fires being revealed will allow us to add 1 Vanquish Soul card from our deck to our hand. So any card, it doesn't have to be a Vanquish Soul monster or a spell and trap. It can be any of them, which is really, really cool because we're also getting a trap in the form of Vanquish Soul Snow Devil, which apparently is in lore. Apparently Jiaolong's signature attack, which is really cool. And it says reveal up to 3 monsters in your hand, a dark, an earth, and a fire, and applies these effects based on what you reveal. If you reveal 1, inflict 400 damage to your opponent, then you can special a Vanquish Soul from your hand. So it's decently good, getting to special summon a monster body on the field. 2, you can inflict 600, then Vanquish Soul monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects this turn, or 3, inflict 800 to your opponent, then destroy all monsters on the field. So it's like an instant dark hole effect, which is really, really deadly, especially when Vanquish Soul had struggled against bigger boards, going first or second when they're trying to mount a comeback. This is just really cool that it's searchable off of Jiaolong himself, but you do have to accommodate by running other fire monsters, so I'm not sure if this is really worth it. You might want to play 1 copy, but the fact is you can also inflict 1800 direct to your opponent and activate all 3 effects based on what what you reveal. So I just think that is really, really awesome in a built-in toolbox card. So yeah, that's about it for the 5 decks that I think will get the highest impact with the cards out of Agov. If you guys have any other decks or anything we missed, definitely let us know in the comments below. Other than that, we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in.